used to watch this show called Judging Amy. I don't know like if you know it, but basically there's this female judge and there's this day where she stops the plane and I'm like, that's so cool. All these late nights, all this not sleeping for however long, all this hard work, like it feels really hard at times. You're like, what do you mean? We paid for law school, like we paid for 3 law schools. God. We paid for exams, we paid for flights, like how dare you quit your job? Like I see this thing which is like nobody prays like when you're in business because the battles you're fighting.
Seriously,
yes.
Welcome to another episode of Becoming with Angela Chris. Remember, this is a podcast where you learn, unlearn, and relearn all that it takes to become the best version of yourself. And with me is a beautiful lady, a fashion entrepreneur. She's one of the co-founders of the Black Creative Trailblazers, a solicitor, and someone who supports so many Black creatives, giving them light to their work in the UK and worldwide. So welcome with me, Adeola.
Yes!
I'm so glad to have you here on this podcast with me. It's a pleasure having you here.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, thank you. And you look so stunning.
Oh, thank you, girl. I love your hair.
Thank you.
Black girl magic.
Yeah, actually. Thank you so much. So, with the title of our series, Becoming an Entrepreneur, a Pivot for Greatness. So can you throw more light on how you started your journey and who is Adeola outside the Black Creative Trailblazers? Who are you?
Yeah.
Can you give us more light on who you are, what you do?
Yes, so my name is Adeola. I own a couple of businesses. So one is Black Creative Trailblazers, which is a social enterprise that's dedicated to showcasing and supporting Black creatives. Our goal is to break down barriers, amplify voices, and create spaces where Black creativity is seen and valued. So we work with Black musicians, fashion designers, models, content creators, poets, photographers. Whatever you do creatively, we want to support it. And it's really important for us as young Black creatives as well to do that. In addition to that, I own a fashion brand called Cultureville. We make African print clothes and accessories in Nigeria and Ghana. And in addition to that, I'm also a qualified solicitor. I'm qualified in England, in New York, and in Nigeria.
Amazing. What a profile.
Thank you, girl.
Okay. That's so nice. Well done. You've got so many achievements. I think that is a very important work you're doing, to be honest. You and your sister, you're doing so great in that aspect, amplifying voice, bringing out their creativity to life. And I think it's a really great work you're doing. So can you throw more light on how that dream came to life? What, inspired you? What brought, have you always been someone who lost creativity when you were younger? What really, brought you out of that?
I mean, I think I'm someone who loves creativity, but I think just like every Nigerian child, I didn't think of creativity as a path that was like sustainable. I thought that like, I have to be a lawyer or an engineer or a doctor, and those are the goals that I aimed for. But I think I took the semi-reasonable route, which is to qualify as a lawyer, work as a lawyer, and then be like, you know what, why don't I go out there and chase my dreams, right? And so I quit my job and I focused on the fashion brand for a little while. And then I looked around Manchester, which is where we're based, and I just saw so many incredible Black creatives. I'd go out and I'd see all this talent, but I realized that those Black creatives weren't really earning much from their creativity. And so one of the goals of Black Creative Trailblazers is to teach people kind of, if you have this talent, how do you actually turn that into something that makes you money? Amazing. What are the paths that you go through? How do you develop in your artistic skill? How do you actually know what's possible? How do you learn about negotiating contracts or marketing yourself? All the skills that you need to develop from just being talented to actually making money from the talents. And so that's kind of our goal as an organization, is to help creatives know kind of how to earn an income from their creativity.
Oh, amazing. Lovely. Yeah. So when you were younger, what was your dream like? Was it always to be a solicitor or a lawyer, or was that because of your parents? Because obviously we Blacks, most of our parents want us to either be a doctor, a lawyer, a banker, those professional jobs. Were you from that kind of family, or did you just have a dream and you're like, when I do this for my parents? Because most people, like, you do the degree, they get the job or get the accolades, the lawyer, doctor, and then they find themselves doing what they actually love. And is that the same for you?
Yeah, it's interesting. I remember the day I decided like I wanted to be a lawyer. We had some people who were studying law come to my school, and I thought, okay, that sounds cool. It doesn't sound too bad. Everyone was always asking me what I wanted to be, and I felt like I didn't have this definitive answer. And so I'd always been good, like quite academic as a student. And so I was like, yeah, I'll go for being a lawyer. And you know, I think I used to watch this show called Judging Amy. I don't know, like if you know it, but basically there's this female judge, and there's this day where she stops the plane, and I'm like, that's so cool. Like, you know, I want to be able to do that. And it's like you have to study, like you have to be a lawyer to be a judge. And I was like, you know what, let me be a lawyer. I think my parents didn't put as much pressure as other homes. My dad had experienced that himself. So when he was younger, his parents really wanted him to be a certain thing. And he was determined that he wouldn't do that to his kids. And so he gave us a little bit more flexibility. They were interested, but they weren't pressuring us to do any sort of thing. But I think I personally liked law. I studied it at college. I enjoyed it. And so I chose that as a path. Is like, I'm going to go down this path because it seems like the sensible path. And it was. But then I think over time my interest changed.
Life changes.
Very
true. A lot of times life happens and then we find ourselves doing something else that, you know, God has a way of, you know, positioning us where we need to be and creating impact, and that's the most important thing that for me, I know. So what was the defining moment when you realized that you wanted to step into entrepreneurship and or basically creating the Black Creative Trailblazers?
I think for me with entrepreneurship, I think it's funny because it wasn't like a decision I made that I wanted to be a business owner. Most of my businesses have come from seeing a need and then trying to fill that need. So when I think about Cultureville, I had moved to Nigeria for Nigerian law school. I wanted to do NYSC. I wanted to do all those things.
Where did you grow up?
I was born in Lagos. I moved to Manchester when I was 12.
Wow.
And then I stayed here for like high school, college, uni.
Pretty much,
And then, and then after uni, I was like, oh, I want to go back to Nigeria so that I can feel connected to my home, like I can feel comfortable in my home. And so I went back to do NYSC, did NYSC, and then decided to stay for law school. And then after law school I was like, wait, why don't I work for a little bit? And so I worked at a law firm in Abuja, and I did that for about a year to 18 months, and then my mom was like, when are you coming home? And so I came back here. But I think while I was working in Abuja, I would go to the markets and I would see all these beautiful fabrics, I would see all these beautiful things, and I was like, man, like when I was in Manchester, I never had access to a place where I could buy these things. You know, I was president of the African and Caribbean Society at university, which I loved. But each time we're doing like a production or something that required African print, it was so hard to find. I would have to beg an auntie, and the style that they bring for me might not be something I like. You know, you just have to hope and pray that they pick the right things that you're going to enjoy. But like, honestly, a lot of the time it wasn't something that I enjoyed. And so when I went to Nigeria and I was buying gifts for my friends, I was like, wait, like, why is there no like store that I can walk to in the city center where I can find these things? And so I was that's what prompted the business. I started selling to a lady at my church who had a shop, you know, and then somebody told me about Depop, which was like, you could list these items and you can sell them. And then we started getting orders from like Italy and all of these places. And I was like, wait, people love it. Amazing. And so that kind of led to that business, but it didn't, I guess it was never like a decision of like, I want to start a business. It was like, oh, I think that people should have access to African print clothes. And I think that it will help the local, like, I think it will help the economy and the traders who are really talented if they sold internationally rather than just locally. Because for me, having experienced both worlds, I was like, people in Manchester want this product, and then people in Nigeria want to sell this product, and probably at a higher price point that's makes it easier for them to live. And so that was my vision, is like, why don't we like start this platform or create a business that kind of helps the traders while also helping those who are looking for African print items. And then I would say similarly with Black Creative Trailblazers, it started more from a place of looking around Manchester, one Black History Month, which is every October, and seeing that like there was nothing really to celebrate being Black. And I think Black people are amazing.
Actually,
right?
we're brilliant, seriously.
I think Black people are amazing and we should be celebrated. And like, I looked around Manchester and like, there was nothing really happening. And I think, when you have like Women's History Month, there's so much to celebrate, and I was like, there's other things we celebrate throughout the year. Why aren't we celebrating it? And so at that point, my sister Ronke is a poet, and I'd been going to a lot of open mic nights with her, and I was loving it. I was like, wow, there's so many talented people. This is incredible. And so we set about creating something that was a black tie evening where we would welcome the community, and we would have, showcase the music, the poetry, the food, the dancing. And like, it was just beautiful. The first one had 100 people. And like, it was,
when did you start?
That was, this year will be our 50th. So,
oh my God, you've come really far.
Yeah, we have.
Really?
Yeah. I didn't know whether it would work. I remember, like, honestly, I feel like God placed the idea on my heart. And it felt so crazy at the time because I wasn't really doing events, if that makes sense. I was just like, God, like, how will I like get to this place that you're telling me? And honestly, this was like a few months before Black History Month, and I was just like, this is impossible. And I remember telling Ronke, and I remember calling my friend who did do events and being like, okay, this is the idea I have, is that for Black History Month, we do something that showcases the talent in the community. And thankfully, they were both really like excited to support the idea. And so we set about doing it, and that night was really, really beautiful. I think it was beyond my wildest imaginations. And I think, I don't know, like, I think that when you have crazy ideas that God gives you, He will often equip you with the people to like get it done. I'm not saying that it's without challenges, because there were so many challenges. Like, our venue ghosted us like up until 3 weeks before the event. They stopped talking to us. They weren't responding to any emails. Meanwhile, on the outside, people were still planning to come, and we were freaking out. Like, there were just so many crazy things that happened. But ultimately, I think we're able to just pull through, and God helped us, and the event sold, and it was beautiful. And like, you attended one last year, and that was like,
oh my God, so amazing.
So beautiful.
Seriously. Mind blowing. Actually, you need to be there in case you're not there.
It's
seriously,
so good.
So good.
We've
really
grown from a place of 100 guests to 1,000.
I love the work you and your sister are doing. The fact that you're bringing people together, like people whose voice are not being heard, like who are. It's not like it seems like they're in a box because they've not been seen, but bringing them out for, for their work to be seen and be heard. It's an important, because a lot of times people don't know what they really have or value what they have if they are not exposed to the right environment or the right audience. So,
and the right community.
Yeah,
as
the
well.
right community. And you're doing a brilliant job. Thank you for that. You're making an impact, and that's what God has called us for. So yeah, you're doing a great job. Yes. So in all your field, in your business and your Black Creative, what challenges have struck you the most that you've really felt that felt like giving up, but not giving up? Obviously, you can't give up. But that's challenge that have puts you to not tears, but
I mean, I think there's been a few challenges. So I would say the first one is obviously quitting a job as a lawyer and then being like, I want to pursue this business. My parents thought I was crazy.
Oh my God.
They were like, what do you mean? We paid for law school, like we paid for 3 law schools.
Oh my God.
We paid for exams, we paid for flights. Like, how dare you quit your job? Like, and I was just like, I just don't think like this is the path for me. Like, and I think like, again, I think being a Christian plays a really big role in like all the things I do. And I think like that was something that I felt like God placed on my heart. And like, I always trust God. I'll always take a chance on being wrong, even if I think I've heard God incorrectly, because I always believe like God loves me and He has my best interests at heart. And so He can always redirect me to where I'm supposed to be, even if I make a mistake. And so when I felt that, I felt like it was kind of God calling me to give Him something. And it was really hard for me actually, because I think my job was really high paying. Like, I was able to live a really good life with that job, and it was one of the most profitable law firms in the world. And so they had, I don't know, like, I guess when I was younger, if I thought about my dream job when I was studying law, a job like that would have been my dream job. And so it was really hard to kind of let that go and not know what was next. I knew I had this business that I had been building, but it didn't feel stable enough. I just knew that it was time to leave, but almost leaving into the unknown. And I think my parents didn't understand that, and rightly so. And my sister also quit her job like a month after me, because my sister is my business partner, for anyone who doesn't know. And so, I think that was really hard for my parents. And so there were lots of difficult conversations back and forth of like, when are you going back to work?
Yeah.
Like,
who's going to pay the bills?
terrible, horrible fights, you know, where everybody would just be so upset after. There would be tears, and like, it was really heartbreaking because I think, you know, they would say everything that we were thinking. They would say like, oh, like, what if this doesn't work out? What if, you know, like, and it's like, honestly, as an entrepreneur, you've probably had those thoughts yourself. Like, am I crazy? What if this doesn't happen? What if, you know, so nobody can really say anything to you that you haven't already said to yourself, you know, or like the negativity in your head hasn't already said to you. And so I think that was really challenging to navigate. It's still challenging, but I think like now a few years on, thankfully, I feel like God has given them vision. Like,
to see.
And you know,
Actually.
I think I saw a video of my dad at the last showcase that we did, and he was watching the stage, and he literally looked like he was gonna cry.
God.
And my dad never says he's proud of us. Like, honestly, like, we could have the best event, he'll be like, yeah, so this is what could have been improved. Point one. Point two. Here's what you need to do better next time.
Oh my God.
Like, so no matter what happens outside, you're gonna go home to a full report of what could have been better. But you know, for the first time at the last showcase, it was like, I'm so proud of you.
That's
like,
so
and
cute.
you know, I think similarly for my mom, she's starting to see. But I think sometimes, like, you know, that vision may not manifest immediately. Like,
it might take a while.
It might take a while.
You're gonna see it eventually.
It might take a while, and it might be hard in that while. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not gonna be all. I can't pretend it's been sunshine and roses. Like, you know, financially it's been difficult. I think when we quit our jobs, we had this dream that within 1 year we'd be making our old salaries, and we're both. She was working as a business analyst. I was working as a corporate transactions lawyer. Like, those are good jobs. And so we were like, oh yeah, in 1 year we'll be back to this much. Then I'll do this. Then you'll do this. Then, and then it's like, year 3. Where's the money?
Where is the money?
The savings are
God,
gone.
is this what you're saying?
So yeah,
my
I think
God.
that was probably one of the toughest things to navigate. Yeah.
Oh my God, I can understand, seriously. But it's all good, it's all good. What was the most rewarding, you know, I know obviously you've had a couple of, you know, awards and all of that. So what was the most rewarding for you feeling? And
I think the most rewarding season is probably right now, like with Black Creative Trailblazers. Like, it's been so beautiful to see the community come together. Like, you know, the last showcase, I think I actually cried on stage because it was so beautiful. And like, the showcases are so hard to put together, right? There's so much to navigate. When you work with a
that was my
large,
next question.
when you work with large institutions like Factory International, like places that are much bigger than us. As you know, we're a really small team. There's just 2 of us. And then we work with our team of volunteers who are amazing. It's really like, there's a big learning curve, and like, there's a lot of like, how do I put it? There's a lot of things to navigate, right? A lot of paperwork, a lot of negotiation, a lot of battles, a lot of fighting to get what you need to get it done. Whether that's a budget that you need, whether that's the marketing that you need. There's a lot that we had to do ourselves to actually make that a success. And, you know, in the middle of it, you're just thinking, oh my gosh, is it even going to be worth it? All these late nights, all this not sleeping for however long, all this hard work, like, it feels really hard at times, you know. And I think on that evening, just looking out, like seeing the community there, like we had about 1,000 guests at the last showcase.
Oh my God, so
that's like unbelievable. Like, and I remember just walking around, I felt like I was floating, and I was just like, it's worth it. It's all worth it. Like, and you know, like, I think more importantly for the creatives that we support, I think for them, they all felt amazing on that night. The people that took to the stage, that had their loved ones come and see them, that had people tell them how amazing they were. I've seen that fire that it's put in them, and I think that's been so beautiful for them to see themselves, because I say when we put our creatives on stages, it's not just for the world to see them, it's for them to understand what they are capable of. Like,
so
you
much
are
more.
capable of so much more. And so once you've seen yourself that way, it lifts you up and it allows you to dream bigger, you know. And so this is the most rewarding season.
Amazing,
you know?
amazing.
And this year we're going to be going even bigger.
Okay, clock it.
It's going to be on the 4th of September at Aviva Studios, and we're going to be, you know, we're hoping to sell out the place this year. So, you
definitely.
Know, even bigger than last year.
Definitely. Sure, you will. How did you, you know, grow from where you were like 5 years ago? You said you had 100, and last year I think you have over 1,000. You said,
about 1,000.
So how did you move from there? I know it's a lot of work. It's not just a day thing, but how did the growth happen? So can you just throw more light on that, people?
The growth happened gradually. I think the growth happened with a lot of collaborations and partnerships. I think there's a lot of organizations that we work with to increase our visibility and to try, I think you've got to try and support other people and they'll support you too. I think we're very community driven, right? We don't do anything by ourselves. We don't believe in like being in a silo. We believe that if we partner with other organizations and other people, we can ultimately achieve more. And that's been the truth for us. So when I think about the last showcase, we partnered with Factory International. We partnered with Exchange Theatre so that we could do rehearsals there. We partnered with Manchester Museum so we could do the castings for the models there. We partnered with the Whitworth so we could do a showcase in the city there. Like Manchester Art Gallery, they allowed us to do the showcase in the city. And so I think, I don't know, like you've got to like have the right people around you and the right ecosystem around you.
That's so nice.
And I think most importantly though was the creatives themselves, you know, the creatives and the volunteers. So we worked with our videographer, Samo Creative.
Samo, my
he's
guy.
so amazing.
Amazing.
And you know, I think working with creatives, everyone just comes with such cool, crazy ideas. You know, I remember when we first started selling the tickets and the tickets were doing so badly. And it was our first time being in such, like we had the 2 floors at Aviva Studios. Because the previous year we only had 1 floor and 1 floor could sit 600. And then this next year we had the 2 floors which can sit 1,200. And I was just like, my goodness, how are we going to fill this? And I remember looking at the tickets and I can't remember what we were on, but like it was like 80 tickets and like 2-3 months to go. And I was like, how are we going to get from 80 to 1,000? It's impossible. Like there's no way that I can see this as being possible. And so I think we had this idea to like share, like rather than trying to deal with something by yourself, share it with others, right? Because at the end of the day, we're building this community and it's to impact everyone. So I think Ronke posted something on Instagram, which was like, guys, we want your wildest ideas of how can we market this showcase. And so people started sending different ideas. Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? Why don't you do the other? And I think that's just like, it's so beautiful to see the community come together like that. So with our creatives, with our volunteers, we would go to town, our creatives would perform, the volunteers would give out the flyers. Everybody really pitched in. Like I really see the showcase as like a community effort, and then it came together.
That's brilliant. Seriously, amazing. To be honest, so you can't do life on your own.
No,
you need to do it with others. We build together and we grow stronger. Amazing. I really love what you do. Seriously, it's really nice. Yes. So basically, I know you're a Christian and I know you've said God has helped you. So, but how has God really influenced you in all that you do, and how has He saw you through your difficult times? Yeah,
I mean, I think, I don't know, I wouldn't be here without God, that's for sure. Like, I think that there's been so many times where I've doubted myself, and I think inevitably in the journey of entrepreneurship, you will doubt yourself. And I think God has always been my strength in those times. There's been times where like I've cried and gotten on my knees and been like, God, I need you. I cannot do this without you. And I feel like God always listens when you cry out to Him, honestly. Like, I always say this, like when I get on my knees and pray, God always answers me. God always shows up for me, always. And so I think my faith has carried me through really difficult moments in business. And I think it's given me peace of mind, like even when I'm not sure about things, you know. And I think for us, honestly, I can't count how many times I prayed on that showcase day. We prayed in the morning. We prayed with the hair and makeup team. We prayed with the volunteers. We prayed when we're getting ready. We prayed, like I said, we were praying. We fasted in that week. Like, honestly, it's so important to cover yourself. You know, like I see this thing, which is like, nobody prays like when you're in business because the battles you're fighting. So like, I think prayer is really key and trusting God is really key. And I think in business, you also have to make a lot of decisions, and those decisions can make you bigger or they can make you smaller. You have to decide who to partner with. You have to decide who to work with. And those decisions, sometimes you don't know what's lurking. You know, there's been things that God has told me to walk away from that looked good on the face of it. I'm like, God, why would I walk away from this? And it's like later it will be revealed why you had to walk away from that.
Get discernment on who to work with? Because
I think it's really important to have discernment. And I think it's definitely something that guides me. For me, I pray to God and I ask Him to like speak to me about what I should enter and what I shouldn't. And honestly, it'll be like a voice in my heart that will just like a whisper, really. And I think because it's a whisper in your heart, sometimes there's that fear of, what if I'm not hearing correctly?
Yeah.
I totally face that.
Is it just my thoughts?
Yeah, is it Jesus or is it my thoughts, right? And so I think like sometimes I'll ask God, please confirm it, and maybe I will see something. Sometimes I'll pray with my sister, like, what do you think about this? Because she's my business partner, and I think that's been a blessing because it's not just me alone. Sometimes we'll both pray about something separately, and we'll both come back with the same word, or sometimes we might be on different pages and be like, oh, I heard this, no, I heard that. You know, like, okay, God, please show us, like, God, please. And I think, like, you know, we're talking about this in my small group this week, but you have to be patient as well. Like, sometimes we want instant answers. We want it to be like, God, I've got to make this decision by 6 p.m. Come on, like, and
just already God, but God has timing, so
yeah. So I think just trying to be discerning. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. God loves you, and ultimately, that's the thing. He's like a father who loves you. He wants to give you his best. And so trust that, like, he's not going to have you think you heard something and drive you down the wrong way without correcting you back. Do you know what I mean? So just try.
He's able to direct our path.
He's able to redirect your path.
Amazing. Thank you so much. The Black Creative Trailblazer, is it just basically volunteer? How do you make money from it financially?
Oh, good question. So with Black Creative Trailblazers, a lot of our work comes from the projects we do. So for example, with the showcase last year, we had the Arts Council England, which is like a big funding body for creative work, and they supported us to deliver that work. So as part of that, they'll provide funding for the creatives who were on the development program that performed at the showcase. They'll provide funding for us to pay ourselves during that process, and that's amazing. And I'm not saying it's easy, but it's so worth it when you get it. So we applied twice and we didn't get it, and then we got it the third time, and that was amazing. And I think when we got it, we got about £28,000, which is unbelievable, right? So like, it is good. I think oftentimes one of the things, like, as a community, the Black community or Black creatives struggle with is not even thinking about applying for funding. Do you know what I mean? Like, you don't think, you have an idea, but you don't think, oh, let me apply for funding to get the money to do this idea. You just do it yourself. I think that there is an element of that that's useful. So with us, we had to, the first 2 years or the first 3 years of doing the showcase, there was no money, right? We had to figure out other ways of getting the money. So obviously you'll have ticket sales, but usually the ticket sales are not enough to pay everyone. And even the Arts Council funding was not enough to pay everyone, because there's so much we paid for in the run up to the actual showcase, like our development program and things like that that you have to put in. But I think one thing that's helped us is collaborators, and now building what we've done without money, we were able to go to them and say, this is what we did when we had no money. Imagine you give us money to expand what we're already doing. How much more we'll be able to achieve. And that really was the truth. When they gave us money to do more, we were able to achieve more than we ever had before. So I think it's really important to understand where you can get funding from. In our first year, I didn't even know Arts Council funding existed. We were just planning, and somebody was like, oh, have you guys applied? And we're like, what's that? And so I was so determined to, it's important to document what you're doing as well. Take pictures, take videos, take things that you can show them, so that at the end of the process, you can be like, okay, this is, you know, one of the things they ask for in the application is give us a picture of what it will look like. And thankfully this year we had loads of pictures, loads of videos to show them, like, this is what it will look like, this is what it will feel like.
That's
you know?
good. Amazing.
And you know, obviously there's also smaller funds, like Ronke applied for the Inspire Fund. They paid for her to have a new camera. And that was the GMCA Inspire Fund. I'm not sure it's still open, but I think that's part of why the work we do is so important, because each week we try and send out the funding opportunities and that people can apply for, because they're everywhere. There's not one source. And now we're starting to put it on the Black Creative Trailblazers website, is that there's a place where you can go that shows opportunities, and then you can see all the funding that you can apply for and all the things you can apply for. And you know, obviously some things open and close, but it's really worth looking out to see, is there anything that can fund the project I have in mind? If there isn't, okay, maybe I'll start by myself, but if there is, then that's amazing.
Wow. So someone who wants to start a business and doesn't really have funding, so the person can apply?
Yes.
Wow, that's good.
You can apply, and I think other resources that are good.
Do you have to be a citizen, or Can an immigrant apply as well?
I think immigrants can apply because I
sometimes
know a couple of people on the Global Talent Visa that have gotten funding from Arts Council. You will need to check the exact criteria, but there's a couple of people in our group that have gotten. There's another fund called the Develop Your Creative Practice Fund, DYCP, and that fund is up to £12,000 for a creative to like growing their creativity. So for example, if you're doing, maybe you started off as a content creator, but now you're doing a podcast and you can show that, okay, I want to do a podcast. This is how I think it will impact me. This is how I think it will grow me. I'm now going to be a producer on this podcast. You explain everything that you want to do and you request the resources to be able to do that successfully. That's what Develop Your Creative Practice is for. Do you get what I mean? So that's a fund that I think is open to everyone.
For all those who are not aware, now you know. A lot of people who have great ideas, they're a bit scared to start, whether it's a business, podcast, or or owning like a creative field just like you. They're a bit scared to start. What's the advice or two biggest advice you give to anyone who wants to start a business, who's looking at creating something for themselves and they're kind of skeptical, they're scared, or
I think feel the fear and do it anyway. Like on the other side of fear, there's so many incredible things, right? And if you allow yourself to just stay in your comfortable zone, you're not going to achieve great things in this life. And at the end of your life, you'll look back and you'll be worried like, oh, I should have done that. You don't want to say I should have. You want to say, oh, I did that. Okay. That was crazy. I did that. Like you want to have no regrets, So I think that like it's really important to just get out of your comfort zone and try things. And yes, you might not succeed at everything, but you will know that you gave yourself the chance. You should never say no to yourself before the world says no to you.
Actually.
And by giving up, you've already lost when you don't have to. So you need to just step out of that comfort zone. A lot of great things in life are scary and trust that on the other side of it, hopefully, is like amazing things.
Amazing. Thank you so much. It's so good to have you on this podcast.
Thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank
so
you,
stay
guys.
tuned. Make sure you...
Oh, sorry. Sorry, I didn't know I thought it was over.
No, it's fine. So, guys,
if you want to connect with us, please follow Black Creative Trailblazers on Instagram or go to blackcreativetrailblazers.com and sign up to our creatives directory.
So guys, make sure you subscribe, like, share, and turn on your post notification button so that whenever we make any posts, you'll be aware. So go press the button now. I'm seeing you. I'm watching you. All right, bye guys. See you in our next episode on Becoming with Angela Craze. Till we meet again. Bye.
Bye.